Erased Destiny. Chapter 9. Game of Shadows. Cyril waited for Uriel to finish the meeting. In the past, he had seen him more often. They had dinners together, went to the same parties. A polite acquaintance for the sake of the children, who were very fond of each other. How many times did Malika spend the night with Cecilia? How many times did Cecilia run away from home to ride horses with Gabriel? All three teenagers contributed to their parents' auxiliary. First, Gabriel died, then Malika. Cecilia a few years later, but still too soon. The loss of the children distanced Cyril from Uriel. They nodded to each other on the street, but rarely exchanged more than 5 words. Alternatively, they signed business documents or discussed new tolls. Not much had changed in the town hall since Cyril's last visit. One pot was gone, perhaps smashed by a frisky child. 3 dark spots appeared on the wall, perhaps from wine. People wandered the corridors in search of officials. Officials strutted around with their elbows, carrying piles of documents and scrolls of important contracts. No one paid any attention to Cyril, who was sitting off to the side.
Cyril? We haven't seen each other in a long time. What brings you here? Do you want to buy more land? No? Problems with warehouses? I have heard that one of them was robbed lastly. No? Any overdue toll?
No, nothing like that. I suspect that my son Jargon is a victim to some forbidden magical practices. I would like to have him checked by a trained healer.
Ah. We haven't had such a case for a long time. Do you have an official notice? Of course you have. May I see it?
Uriel read the document. Like everything what Cyril wrote, it was perfect from formal point of view, logical and lacking any emotions. All Jargon's health problems were described with details, as well as testimony of Jargon's parents, as Jargon was still a minor. Uriel asked Cyril to wait for a few minutes. He went to the Department of Magic and gave the letter to one of working there women. After that, he returned to Cyril.
The healer from the Crystal Palace should arrive in 4 days. Please do not leave Cyntra till Jargon's health is checked. Are you free now?
Yes, I am.
Perfect. In that case, we can get Merigold's testimony as well, and after that await for the healer only. Let us go to my house.
Uriel asked one of clerks to visit Amanda the dyer and ask Merigold to come to Uriel's residence as soon as possible. Then he left the town hall together with Cyril. They walked slowly, discussing the latest events like they used to do some years before.
I heard that someone tried to kidnap you and me. Is this true?
Indeed, just few days ago we captured the would-be kidnappers. Thanks to Merigold, nothing happened to you, although it was the most dangerous situation so far. The number of those killed and captured speaks for itself. To think that there are armed bandits walking the streets of Cyntra. Very disturbing, isn't it?
Merigold? The 15-year-old golden-haired girl who apprentices with Amanda.
The same one. Thanks to her, you passed all her exams. She's a good teacher and very capable bodyguard.
Going to the mayor's house, Merigold was sure that she would come to question the principal of kidnapping. She wanted to put on her black robe, but it was dirty. She looked through her clothes. Due to lack of time, she hasn't washed anything lastly, and the only clean dress was the one from Jargon. Merigold didn't want to wear it, but going in dirty clothes would be even worse. She rushed to Mayor's house. While waiting for the arrival of the dying apprentice, Uriel drank wine, inquired about Jargon, Cyril's plans, Joanna's health. Cyril felt a bit nervous. Uriel's clearly friendly attitude toward Merigold worried him. Was it possible for Merigold to hypnotize Uriel as well?
Good morning. Did you find Jared?
Unfortunately. I don't think he remained in Cyntra after the defeat of his people.
Only after a while did Merigold notice Cyril. She turned pale, her pulse quickened and her heart was filled with anxiety. Why was he in Uriel's house? If not to interrogate Jared, why was she invited?
Merigold, you know Cyril, don't you? He has filed an indictment against you. He claims that you use forbidden magic. Is that true?
No, it is not. I haven't seen Cyril for a long time. How could I cast anything on him?
It is not about Cyril, but his son Jargon. When did you see Jargon for the last time?
At 2 this night I think.
The gaudy tone of the mayor's voice further upset Merigold. Fear and anger made the girl unable to draw breath. She felt like she was flying down into a darkness she didn't know. She smiled, which was completely out of step with the situation she found herself in. With the relaxed step of a courtroom regular, Etienne approached the mayor. A black chill shone in her eyes, and her hands stopped trembling. Instead, Cyril felt uncomfortable. He did not expect such composure from a teenager. He thought he would come face to face with a hysterical maiden who would shriek and cry to prove her innocence. Meanwhile, Merigold spoke in an overly calm and matter-of-fact manner.
Before I was found to be magical, I often visited Jargon. Then I was forbidden to do so. Magic can be feared, the magic of death above all, but the attitude of Jargon's parents goes far beyond mere caution.
The emotionless tone of Merigold's voice suggested that this was not the first time the girl had to defend her good name. She knew exactly what she was saying and why she was saying it. Every word and sentence was in its place before she entered Uriel's house.
What were you doing with Jargon yesterday?
We met on the road to Cyntra. We visited his vineyard, ate some plums, then separated. Jargon came to see me after midnight. We visited Pillas the mage together. Jargon seemed to want to sign up, so I introduced him to Pillas. To demonstrate his magic, Jargon trashed Pillas's room with an ice storm. If an indictment is filed against him, I will serve as a witness to this unpleasant event. After seeing Pillas, I teleported Jargon outside Cyntra so he could go home.
In that case, we can ask Pillas whether, in his opinion, Jargon was influenced by Merigold's charm or not. Would you like to add anything else?
First, Joanna offered me a lot of money to leave Cyntra immediately and never come back. Now Cyril has come to accuse me of using forbidden magic. What is the point of all this?
Etienne looked at Cyril, seemingly expecting his answer. She knew that whatever Cyril said would make his already bad situation worse. The man decided that the wisest course of action would be to apologize to Merigold for the accusation, covering up for Jargon's atypical behavior, which they attributed to the influence of magic.
I think I understand. Jargon proposed to me, presented me a dress, this dress namely, but this would be a misalliance, right? To marry a girl from a poor family, a mage to make things worse.
Cyril looked at Merigold. He thought that her dress looks familiar to him, but now he was sure. It was Malika's dress. Before Cyril answered, Uriel spoke again.
Did you want to pay your son's Fianki to get rid of her? You accused her of practicing forbidden magic in order to punitively transfer her to the palace? Surprising.
From mutual accusations, Etienne smoothly transitioned to an oversweet discussion of the engagement. She lowered her gaze, pretended to be embarrassed, shuddered uncertainly in place. Although just a minute ago she looked ready to fight a magical battle. The actions of his wife and son took away Cyril's remaining hope of getting out of the situation with a face.
Are you engaged to Jargon?
Merigold's face was covered with a red more intense than ever. The girl swept her gaze across the table legs to avoid looking Cyril in the eye. Fluttering her golden hair, the girl looked so ashamed and embarrassed, as if she felt like collapsing to the ground. She felt that every second of artificially prolonged silence was one more gray hair on Cyril's head.
Well, the thing is,
Are you engaged or not?
Etienne raised her gaze, and everyone saw her laughing face, the dominant feature of which was her black eyes full of silver sparks.
I was going to accept Jargon's offer, but his parents' attitude made me change my mind. I don't want to fight with in-laws for the rest of my life. So for now, I consider other candidates, with 19-year-old minor you being the first choice. I assume that now we need to wait for the healer, am I right? I am sure that Jargon's checkup would show no traces of magic, rather depression after being rejected by me. May I go home?
Yes, of course. Thank you, Merigold, for coming so fast and explaining the situation. I will notify you about the results of the checkup. Please do not leave Cyntra until the case is closed.
Of course. I would be available for any further questioning. Thank you. Goodbye.
Merigold left Uriel's house and returned to Amanda. Uriel and Cyril sat in silence for a while. Cyril underestimated Merigold, her intellect and poise. He had set himself up, exposed himself to ridicule. Did Jargon really trashed Pilla's room? This should have been clarified before leaving Cyntra. Pay reparations so that the accusation would not come to court.
I don't know what you had in mind, and I don't even want to know. Do you think I would entrust you to someone untrustworthy? Pillars vouches for her with his life, which in his case is a rather rare phenomenon. I talked to Amanda, who praises Merigold for being diligent and hard-working. I talked to Torden, who says only good about her.
Maybe we have actually become oversensitive. We are afraid for Jargon more than it is logical.
I understand your pain and anxiety, but destroying your son's relationship. I remember how it was with Cecilia. Madly in love with Gabriel. At the wedding with Duras, she cried all the time.
Uriel sighed and opened a second bottle of wine. He recalled the escapades of Cecilia, Gabriel, and Malika together. Their rascality and charming excuses. Escapes through the window, clashes with security guards, Cecilia's organized abduction of her own. And Cyril sat in a chair in silence, grieving for lost opportunities. He didn't mind the relationship between Jargon and Merigold. It was Joanna who was driven by resentment over the misalliance. Cyril left Uriel's house and immediately directed his steps to the House of Magic. He hated this place. Usually he preferred to make up the road, as long as he was not near the sprawling building fenced by a high stone wall. He had himself paged by the school owner and waited in the courtyard. He tried not to look at anyone, not to see the magically gifted kids whose squeals reached him from every nook and cranny of the school.
Hello, what can I do for you? Would you like to enroll your child?
My name is Cyril, I am Jargon's father. I heard that he was here yesterday. Is this true?
The one that Merigold brought to me? Would you like to see what he can do?
Cyril vehemently denied it. He preferred to pay more than was due, including for the damage Jargon had not done, as long as he did not enter the School of Magic.
If Merigold had not countered his spell, much more than the floor would have been destroyed. Please thank her if you see her. 3 pieces of silver are due.
Cyril paid. He immediately turned around and headed toward the street with a quick step.
Sir, Jargon should be trained by someone. He can't handle the power. If you do not do anything about it, he will cause more and more damage. Sir.
Cyril did not stop. He walked faster and faster, almost ran, as if an army of skeletons were chasing him. Pilla shook his head in distaste and only muttered to himself.
Strange man.
Before returning home, Cyril visited Radagast as well, to pay for Jargon's medical checkup, only to get to know that Radagast hadn't seen Jargon for the last year.